Exposed, the sinister secret of 3 cursed inmates hidden in the forbidden asylum attic. The night air was thick with dread as Jenna stood before the imposing structure of the Maplewood Asylum. It loomed like a malevolent giant, shadows shifting uneasily over its crumbling facade. Rumors say 3 inmates vanished from the attic, lost to the world decades before, their souls eternally trapped. A chill crept down Jenna's spine. Could it be true? As she pushed through the rusted gate, the screech of metal echoed like a death knell. She hesitated, remembering the recent shadows stalking her at home, the flicker of anxiety at the edge of her thoughts. The neighborhood felt wrong, a pressure like static filling the air. Every late-night call from unknown numbers only deepened her paranoia. With a shiver, she stepped inside, drawn by an irresistible pull, her breath quickening, each step sinking into the dusty floorboards beneath her. As Jenna wandered deeper into the asylum, dust motes demonstrated a sinister dance in the beam of her flashlight. She spotted remnants of old lives, faded photographs, cracked glass, and tattered clothes. The silence was deafening. Then came the whispers, faint and indistinct, urging her to venture further. Each echo threatened to unveil the darkness hiding within the walls. What had happened here? Was this where those men vanished, their screams swallowed whole by the decay around her? The air became dense, heavy with an unsettling presence. The energy shifted, a prickling sensation crawling over her skin. Jenna entered a dim room littered with scattered files and audio recordings. There they were, the cursed accounts of 3 lost souls. Tales of grim experiments and malicious intentions lay bare, revealing how the very fabric of their community had been twisted by greed and power. Could the awful truth from these musty pages mirror her own life? As a single mother recently cast into the depths of despair, Jenna felt an unshakable connection, a reflection of the monsters who hid behind the smiles of neighbors who once offered comfort. Suddenly, her phone buzzed violently in her pocket. Heart racing, Jenna pulled it out to find a myriad of missed calls. The last number belonged to Tyler, her teenage son. Panic surged through her veins. There was something ominous lurking just outside their home. Outside. The very thought sent ice coursing through her veins. Before we continue, I need to tell you something important that's happening. YouTube has been making changes to their system and many people are missing notifications from channels they follow. If you're enjoying the content, click the bell and select all notifications so you don't miss future videos. And if you can leave a like, it really helps me with reach. Seriously, it makes a difference. Oh, tell me in the comments where you're watching from. I'm always curious to know who's on the other side of the screen. Now let's continue. Her instincts screamed at her. She had to go home now. Something was terribly wrong. Fear drove her quickly toward the door, skimming over memories of safety in their little house on Maplewood Drive. The shadows seemed to stretch and pulse around her. Had her fears made her crazy, or was the fear well-deserved? Just as she stepped over the threshold, she spotted a looming figure across the street, its gaze fixed directly on her. Heart pounding, Jenna felt the weight of nameless horror blanket her. A cold sweat dripped from her brow. What had she awakened? What awaited her inside those 4 familiar walls of home? Jenna's breath hitched as the figure across the street stepped into the light of a flickering street lamp. A man, tall and gaunt, his face obscured by a deep hood. There was something unsettling about his stillness, something unnatural. It felt like he was waiting, watching. She spun around and dashed back into the asylum, the heavy door closing with a loud bang behind her. The sudden silence was suffocating, punctuated only by the frenetic beating of her heart. With adrenaline coursing through her, she glided through the shadows, her flashlight beam trembling. In the corners of her vision, movement flickered. Were the ghosts of the past materializing, or was her mind playing tricks on her? The hallway stretched on endlessly, the walls adorned with peeling paint and remnants of desperation. The whispers grew louder, echoing off the walls. Help us, no, not help. Join us. The chilling invitation sent waves of fresh terror coursing through her. She clutched the files tightly against her chest. She had to find out what had happened to the men whose stories were woven into that sickening fabric, what had made them prisoners of this wretched place. Turning a corner, Jenna came upon a room with a door slightly ajar, a faint light glowing from within. Pushing it open, she found a small, dingy chamber, scattered with old files. Her breath caught as she noticed a familiar photograph lying on the ground. It was her holding Tyler's south hand at the park. What was it doing here? Fear clenched her stomach. Could they already know about her? It felt as if the place was alive, feeding off her fears, her regrets. Then, out of the corner of her eye, she sensed a figure lurking in the shadows. She spun around, her flashlight beam landing on nothing. Yet, the hairs on the back of her neck stood on end. There was someone there, she was sure of it. With frantic urgency, she rifled through the files lining a creaky wooden desk. Most documents were blurred with age, but one stood out, a report labeled Experiment 37B. Shaking, Jenna read through the scribbles, a twisted account of psychological manipulation, corruption, and the promise of power. The memories flooded back, troubling nights filled with echoing laughter, promises made and broken by those she trusted. This insanity felt all too familiar. Just like the isolation she felt in her own life, where the voices didn't come from the asylum, but from the neighbors who lived on her street. The very thought made her blood run cold. Had her very existence unwittingly crossed paths with these cursed souls? The whispers deepened, practically vibrating the air around her. Free us, they beckoned. Jenna's head spun. Free? What did they mean? Suddenly, a sharp rattling broke her thoughts. She turned to the door, wide-eyed. Someone was trying to get in. She bolted towards the window, breathless with panic. Scrambling to unlatch it, she felt her pulse race. Then came a low, guttural laugh, deep and resonant, sending ice through her veins. Let me in, Jenna. The voice was smooth like silk, but the menace behind it was unmistakable. I'm here to share the truth. The window was sticky with grime, refusing to yield. Escape was slipping away, and with it, her grasp on what was real. Just when she thought she could manage a way out, the door splintered open with a crash. The darkness poured in. Jenna's heart pounded as she faced whatever was looming behind that door. What truth awaited her? And would she be able to escape this nightmare, or would she be destined to join those souls forever lost in the asylum? The door swung inward, revealing a figure wrapped in that same shadowy cloak. Jenna's mind raced as she grappled with the horror unfolding. The low laughter echoed again, thick with sinister intent. She staggered back, pressing against the cold, damp wall, her breath coming in quick gasps. Jenna. The voice purred. I've been waiting for you. Her heart raced faster, pounding against her ribcage like a frantic drummer. Who was this? What did he want? Panic threatened to engulf her as she remembered the document about manipulation and corruption. Was this part of it? Please, she stammered, the words escaping her lips as a desperate plea. What do you want? The man stepped closer, his face still hidden beneath that hood. Just a glimpse of a bony hand reaching out made her stomach churn. You have something that belongs to us, he said, voice dripping with malice. You don't even know the power you carry. Jenna's mind flashed to the files she had collected. Were they truly connected to him, to the whispers? The shadows around him seemed to thicken, curling into the room like living tendrils. She felt suffocated, the air heavier with each passing moment. Join us, Jenna, the man continued, his voice now a whisper, enticing yet filled with a chilling urgency. You have been chosen. You can free us. No! She screamed, and the walls reverberated with her fear. Time felt suspended as her instincts screamed at her to flee, to escape this nightmare. She had to run, to find her way back to safety, but the only exit lay behind the figure. Then, amidst the thickening shadows, Jenna spotted an old brass candlestick on the desk, a potential weapon. With her heart in her throat and adrenaline surging through her veins, she seized it and hurled it towards the door. The candlestick clattered to the ground, but the distraction worked. The man turned slightly, his attention drawn away just long enough. Jenna lunged for the open space beyond the door, darting past him into the hallway. The whispers intensified, surrounding her, a cacophony of voices pulling at her mind. Join us, they pleaded. Free us. She sprinted down the corridor, the heavy thud of her heart drowning out the sound of her footsteps. Each corner she turned seemed to lead her deeper into the asylum's labyrinth, away from escape. The walls closed in, pulsating with the dark energy of trapped souls. Just when hope flickered within her grasp, the ground trembled beneath her feet. The lights flickered, casting an eerie glow that revealed figures pressed against the walls, faces twisted in anguish, eyes pleading. She barely stifled a cry. Were these the tortured souls? Was this what awaited her if she didn't find a way out? It wasn't long before she reached a large, gaping doorway at the end of the hall. Before she could think, she dashed through it, slamming the door behind her. But the sudden silence was deafening. Something was wrong. She felt as she steadied her breath. Jenna turned to face the room. Dim light illuminated stacks of dusty crates and crawling shadows. But above all, there was an attic ladder rising ominously into the darkness above. A terrifying instinct told her to avoid it, yet a magnetic pull urged her closer. The whispers came again, sharper, like blades in her mind. "Find us no!" she screamed, shaking her head. Jenna turned away, trying to drown them out, but the compulsion grew stronger. The very air was thick with dread, as if the asylum itself was alive and longing for her compliance. Suddenly, the door behind her rattled. The man was coming. "Jenna!" he called, the voice echoing through the room. "You cannot run from your destiny." She had to choose. Face the darkness above, or confront the nightmare closing in behind her. Heart racing, Jenna approached the attic ladder, each step heavier than the last. What lay at the top? Would she define her fate there, or was it a deeper descent into madness? As her hand gripped the rungs, a chilling thought emerged: the truth she sought might shatter her world. What awaited her in the shadows above? What secrets lay hidden? Ready to consume her? Jenna's heart hammered as she grasped the first rung of the ladder. The metal chilled her palm, sending a jolt of electricity coursing through her. She glanced back towards the door. The rattling had stopped, but that did little to soothe her rising dread. The attic loomed above, a dark abyss that seemed to mock her courage. The whispers swelled around her, a dissonant symphony of desperation. "Come find us," the voices urged, now mingled with a faint, echoing cry that sent shivers down her spine. With a deep breath, she pushed herself upward, each step taking her further from the safety of the ground. The air grew colder, the shadows thickening as darkness embraced her. She reached the top, pulling herself into the attic, and the moment she crossed the threshold, she felt as if she had entered a different realm, one steeped in primordial fear and anguish. Refusing to let paralysis take hold, Jenna searched her surroundings. The attic was cluttered with cobwebs and old relics, furniture draped in white sheets, cracked mirrors reflecting twisted shapes, even a rusted rocking chair that moved slightly as if stirred by a ghostly wind. But it was the walls that took her breath away. Scrawled writings, desperate and frantic, covered every inch. "They are waiting, don't let them in, our curse is eternal." It was clear now, she wasn't the first to stumble upon this haunting revelation. And then she heard it again, the soft sobbing echoing in the corners of her mind, weaving like a thread through the chaos. The sound was uneven, a mix of despair and hopelessness that chilled her to the core. "Help us," the sobs pleaded, rising in urgency. Suddenly, a rattle broke through the oppressive atmosphere. A loose board creaked beneath her weight. Panic surged, and she instinctively stepped back. But not without consequence. A sharp pain shot through her ankle, making her cry out. As Jenna stumbled, the shadows flickered, and in that disorienting moment, figures began to form, swirling from the darkness around her. Their faces blurred, eyes wide, mouths moving, yet no sound escaped their lips. The realization hit her like a brick: these were the tortured souls, the inmates who once inhabited this forsaken place. "Leave this place," one figure rasped, its voice a hollow echo that sent chills racing along her spine. But the whispers screamed louder, drowning out the warning. "Join us, you have what we need." Jenna's breathing quickened. She was engulfed in a chaotic whirlwind of energies, the anger of the trapped souls, their cries for release. She shook her head violently, pressing her palms against her ears to block out the noise. This wasn't a choice, it felt more like a reckoning. Desperation clawed at her. The ladder she'd just climbed seemed a far-off escape. The room spun. She needed clarity. She had to focus. "Who are you?" she shouted into the gathering darkness. The figures stilled for a moment, their faces morphing into a grim tableau of despair. One stepped forward, eyes locking onto hers, glowing with an eerie luminescence. "We were wronged. 3 of us forever cursed. You can set us free? How?" Jenna stammered, feeling their collective energy pressing against her, urging her to take action. What do you want? Unveil the truth, the figure intoned, voice resonating like the final toll of a bell, before he finds you. Just then, a loud crash echoed from below. The door had broken open. The man was here. Jenna! His voice echoed, a piercing shriek of madness and hunger. You cannot escape your fate. The walls around her trembled, darkness swirling ever closer. She was running out of time. The presence of the tortured souls surrounded her, vibrating with raw energy. What truth awaited her in that attic? What would happen if she chose to confront the man? Would unveiling the secrets grant her some semblance of safety, or would it seal her fate forever? She gripped the edge of a nearby crate, her pulse quickening with panic. There was no more time to weigh her options. Jenna's choice loomed before her, and the darkness whispered sweet promises of liberation in her ear. Would she embrace the terror, or flee into the unknown, knowing the shadows would follow? As the door burst open below, her decision crystallized in her mind, but what awaited her beyond that threshold? Jenna's heart raced as footsteps thundered up the stairs. The figure of the man loomed large in her mind, a dark silhouette framed by an ominous glow that flickered from the stairwell below. She could hear him panting, a growl building in his throat. Jenna! He called again, his voice slithering through the attic like a noxious fog. You think you can hide up there forever? I'll find you. She had to make a choice, and there was no more time to hesitate. The tortured souls around her were watching, their faces pleading. This wasn't just her fight, she could feel the weight of their despair urging her on. Unveil the truth, the glowing figure echoed in her mind, as the others flickered like dying embers of a hearth, desperate and intent. Jenna turned to the eerie writings on the walls, fingers trembling against the old wood. She was painfully aware that the man would soon burst through the attic door, a predator hungry for prey. With desperate fervor, she brushed her fingertips over the scrawls. There had to be something here, something that would allow her to confront him, to set the souls free and maybe even save herself. 3 of us, the glowing figure reminded her, forever cursed. Dread consumed her as she attempted to decipher the frantic scribbles. Words seemed to dance before her eyes, coaxing forgotten memories to the surface. They are waiting, yes, waiting for what? A loud crack split through the attic, and dust fell from the ceiling. The man was closer now. She felt a wave of icy terror wash over her. The whispers grew more fervent, filling her with an overwhelming urge to uncover the darkness encapsulating this space. Find the key, the voices flared. It's hidden, the truth lies within. But just as those words settled in her mind, the attic floor trembled under the weight of his approach. The door rattled violently against its frame, like a beast trying to break free from its cage. She spun around, her breath quickening. She saw it then, a small, ornate box half buried beneath old rags in a corner of the attic. It was tarnished, glistening faintly in the dim light. The box seemed to hum with a life of its own, a promise of answers that both terrified and exhilarated her. The souls whispered with urgency, their breaths mixed with her own rapid gasps. Grab it! They urged. It holds the truth. With no time to think, Jenna lunged for the box, her fingers racing to open it. The moment she lifted the lid, a chill exploded around her, and a blinding light surged forth. Figures began to swirl violently as the whispers turned into a cacophony of screams. Jenna! The man's roar erupted from behind her, shaking the attic's rafters. You think you can escape? Heart pounding, Jenna clutched the box tight. She could feel the energy within it, raw and fierce. This was her chance. The souls were desperate for release, and perhaps, somewhere within, it held the secret she needed to confront him. But as she turned to face the darkness, the light from the box flickered, and the whispering intensified, clawing at her mind. She couldn't help but wonder, what other horrors could be unleashed if she opened it fully? Just then, the door burst open with a violent crash, and in he strode, a malevolence radiating from him. The shadows shifted in his direction, swarming like raging bees, and Jenna found herself caught between desperation and terror. Give it to me! He roared, eyes hungry and wild. Her grip tightened around the box. No! I won't let you have it. But she had to act fast. The souls, the whispers, the light, they were all pushing her toward one question. Could this box be the key to her survival, or would it seal her fate, unleashing nightmares she couldn't comprehend? With a racing heart, Jenna prepared to make her decision. As Jenna stood frozen, the box pulsing with energy in her hands, the air thickened like a storm about to break. The man in the doorway took a step forward, a predator closing in on its prey. His eyes a glare that burned with insatiable hunger pierced through the dimness, locking onto her. "Open it!" he demanded, voice oozing with venom. There was madness in his words. "You think you can wield that power? You have no idea what lies within." Just then, a violent tremor rippled through the attic, shaking her resolve. The whispers crescendoed, overlapping into a dissonant wail that reverberated off the walls, urging her to act. Jenna squeezed her eyes shut for a moment, wrestling with the weight of their demands against the encroaching danger. "Release us, set us free," the tortured voices seemed to plead, intertwining with her frantic thoughts. The man snarled, advancing with a speed that sent her stumbling backward. Shelves creaked ominously, the shadows merging into an oppressive darkness that felt alive. "You want to get out of here alive?" he bellowed, drawing closer, his breath hot with rage. Panic coursed through her veins. The box held promise in peril, and she had to choose. Her instincts screamed to flee, yet the souls surrounding her surged with desperation. She could feel their ghosts pressing in, the collective weight of their sorrow pushing her toward the depths of the box. "Find the truth!" they cried, their voices a relentless echo in her brain. Jenna's heart thudded like war drums. She opened her eyes, facing the man, then glanced at the box. "Will you dare?" she whispered to herself, fingers trembling. She could almost feel the pulse of the box syncing with her heartbeat, an unholy rhythm. Then, in a moment of clarity amid chaos, Jenna declared, "If you want it, come and take it." Shocking herself with her own defiance, she lifted the box to catch the man off guard. The light within flared, illuminating his features, revealing twisted fear. For a fleeting second, doubt flickered behind his wild eyes, hesitation where hunger had ruled. As she prepared to open it wider, revelation struck. "The curse, it started with you!" she screamed, tossing everything she had into that moment of bravery. The box became a beacon, a focal point for the energy swirling around them. His face contorted in disbelief, the man leaped forward, trying to overpower her, but Jenna thrust the box toward him. "You wanted the truth." The cacophony of wails heightened, and as if responding to her provocation, a blinding light erupted from the box. She felt it push against her, filling the attic in an intense, pulsating glow. The shadows screamed, twisting into horrifying shapes that darted around them, colliding into the man. He staggered back, eyes wide in terror as apparitions surfaced, gnarled and twisted, clawing at him, their faces reflecting deep-rooted anguish. "Help us! End this!" they cried, and in that moment, Jenna understood. The key to her survival was more than just the box, it was confronting him, uncovering the dark truth that bound them all. Of the energy from the box thrummed violently. Jenna had to decide, would she risk everything to unleash what lay inside, hoping it would destroy him and free the souls? Or would opening it envelop her in an even greater nightmare? Her hesitation echoed in the charged air, and before she could solidify her choice, the man lunged forward, desperate to claim the light for himself. "You don't know what you're doing!" he shouted, breaking through the howling veil of lost souls. As Jenna prepared to respond, the light dimmed, and the shadows coiled tighter around them. Would she unleash an ancient terror, or could she wield that truth and find a way out alive? With the man closing in, Jenna took a breath, her heart racing. This was the moment the flickering depths of the box held danger and power. Would it consume her, or could it finally end the cycle of horror? For she knew, deep down, the real battle was just beginning. Jenna felt the air grow colder, her breath forming clouds of mist that hung between her and the man. He was a storm unleashed, his rage palpable as he surged forward. The whispers swelled, drowning out her fear, turning into desperate chants. "Open the box!" they cried, their echoes clawing at the edges of her mind, demanding action. The man's face twisted into a mask of rage. "You think that light can save you? It will only bring doom!" he roared, advancing with a terrifying presence that sent chills deep into her bones. As she held the box like a lifebuoy amidst a turbulent sea, Jenna's mind raced. Shadows slithered along the walls, inches from her skin as the apparitions continued to shriek. She had to make her choice, but with each heartbeat, the choice became more complex. If she opened the box, would she release the horror trapped within, or could it be her salvation? "Get away from me!" she shouted, a voice stronger than she felt. The light pulsed, casting eerie shadows that danced like specters. There was an unfamiliar clarity in her extremity, a spike of courage brewing under the weight of terror. Suddenly, the ground beneath her vibrated violently, the wood splintering and groaning under the pressure of something awakening deep below. The box rattled, energy coursing through her fingers, threatening to slip from her grasp. "Just a little more," she murmured to herself, a mantra echoing inside the storm of chaos. She needed to find that truth. The shadowed past demanded release. "Fool!" the man spat, as he lunged, a blur of frantic energy. Jenna's heart plummeted. She couldn't look away as the void of his fury consumed their surroundings. The light from the box flickered dangerously, and in those explosive moments, time stretched. Everything slowed as Jenna braced herself. She was about to unleash everything. With one desperate motion, she threw open the box, and a monstrous roar erupted, echoing through the attic like the breaking of a dam. The light surged and spread, fractals of white-hot energy tearing through the remaining darkness. A rush of frigid air engulfed Jenna, sending her hair whipping around her face. Shadows screamed, their shapes shifting into anguished forms, and the man froze, eyes wide, face pale as the horror unfolded. Unseen forces poured forth from the box, tangled souls in torment, ancient faces marred by unspeakable pain. "Set us free!" they screamed, reaching for him, their empty eyes filled with a grief that twisted his core. Jenna felt an overwhelming pull from the box, an entity that begged her to join in its wrath, and her heart raced as she fought against it. "No!" she shouted, shaking her head furiously. She couldn't give in to it. Couldn't he let the darkness consume her, even as it wrapped around her limbs like chains? In a burst of adrenaline, she stepped forward, aiming the light toward the man with every fiber of her being. The shadow shrieked, fangs bared, as they tore into the man, who stumbled back, terror written across his face. His snarls turned into screams as the vengeful spirits came alive, tearing at his flesh, pulling him closer to the box, closer to its grave secrets that wanted to be unveiled. Yet Jenna stood anchored, fighting against the surge of power that beckoned her to join. "You wanted the truth? Here it is!" she yelled, her voice firm in the chaos. As the wails reached a fever pitch. As darkness battled light, Jenna's eyes widened. The man reeled, trapped in his own nightmare. But what had she truly unleashed? Would this rescue her, or was she only igniting a more horrific reality? The box's glow flickered again, casting erratic shadows all around, illuminating the final faces of the tortured souls. They were grasping, reaching out as if begging her to make the final decision. In that moment, Jenna faced her own choice. Was she fighting to survive, or to escape the very horror she had glimpsed? With hearts pounding in unison, Jenna and the man locked eyes, the truth hanging heavily between them. Could the shadows be quelled, or would they consume them all? The cacophony dimmed, replaced by the heavy silence of impending doom. The dreaded conclusion to this pulse of light stood on the edge, waiting for the next breath to tip the balance. Would Jenna unleash salvation or initiate an unfathomable nightmare? The roar faded, replaced by a deafening silence that suffocated Jenna's chest. It felt like the end, but Jenna knew it was only a pause, a moment of dread before reality crashed back in. The glowing box still pulsed in her hands, a heartbeat of power that promised chaos or salvation. The man's screams echoed through her mind, but it wasn't just him she heard. The anguished cries of the souls clung to her, clawing at her resolve. "Get out!" she screamed, directing her command at the man. His eyes darted around, panic radiating from him like heat off a boiling pot. He was caught in a dance of despair as the shadows twisted around him, yet Jenna stood firm, the box her only ally in this storm. With a sudden crack, the floor beneath them splintered, creating fissures that widened like greedy mouths. Jenna stumbled but regained her footing. This place was coming apart, the dark power within the box was freeing itself, transforming the attic into a battleground. The man, now shaking like a leaf, threw his hands up as tendrils of shadow reached for him, dragging him back towards the box's glow. "Please. I didn't want this. I didn't mean to." His pleas were cut short by a screech that spiraled from the depths of the box, an unearthly sound that shook Jenna to her core. Before she could respond, the box surged, the light spilling out like molten fire. It engulfed the man, illuminating the twisted faces of the tortured souls. Jenna couldn't tear her eyes away, a morbid curiosity gripping her. She felt the rush of wind as the apparitions swirled around them. Each one bore witness to unspeakable horror, their eyes void of hope, their mouths silently screaming. Jenna's heart raced. Were they truly seeking freedom? Or vengeance? Help us! A voice wailed, brittle and cracked, weaving through the chaos. It pulled at Jenna's very essence, urging her to surrender, to submit to the power that coursed around her like a river dragging everything into darkness. No! She gasped, fighting against the pull. Not like this. With a surge of willpower, she projected the light outward, forcing it toward the man still caught in the shadowy grip. Look inside. Face it. His eyes met hers, and suddenly, clarity broke through the despair. He straightened, as if Jenna's words pierced through the fog of shadows. The truth, he stammered, his voice trembling. It's inside me. As he proclaimed that truth, shadows recoiled with a hiss, writhing against the force of the box. The oppressive atmosphere shifted, light momentarily dispersing darkness. Jenna felt a flicker of hope, but it was quickly swallowed by dread when she realized the truth was not just his to bear. The box trembled violently, a portal of chaos ready to unleash its full fury. Jenna's hands grew numb from gripping it so tightly, and flashes of her own fears bubbled to the surface. Jenna! He barked, the desperation in his voice cracking. You have to help me. We can end this. But what did that mean? As the shadows writhed and clawed, Jenna could feel the very fabric of her reality fraying. She was standing at a precipice, and the very notion of stepping forward threatened to plunge her into the abyss. Together? She whispered, a question tethered in uncertainty. Silence loomed, but the box throbbed, drawn to their shared intensity. The shadows hissed, swirling dangerously and closing in. Jenna had to decide. Was this their moment of solidarity, or would it fracture under the weight of dread? As the shadows merged into a distorted shape, Jenna knew one thing: she could not turn her back. She had to face the truth, whatever it cost. What will we unleash? She asked, voice barely above a whisper, as reality wavered like a dream on the brink of shattering, and then it spoke. A voice deeper than the abyss, filling the air with an echoing promise. Your greatest fear will be your only choice. Will you dare to embrace it? The sparks of impending horror flared up, illuminating the path forward, as Jenna prepared to step into the unknown. The box pulsed, its light flickering like a dying star. Whispering souls clawed at the edges of Jenna's mind, blending with the chaos swirling around her. The man's face contorted in terror, but a newfound determination glimmered in his eyes. It was as if he was seeing something beyond her, something hidden in the depths of the shadows. What are you so afraid of? Jenna shouted, her voice rising above the cacophony. Shadows loomed, their forms grotesque and ever-shifting, reflecting all the fears they had ever known. She felt the weight of their collective dread pressing against her, a shroud she couldn't shake off. I don't know. He screamed back, his words choked with despair. I don't know what will come out if I face it. If we face it. That was the moment the box roared to life, luminescence twisting like a serpent ready to strike. Light filled the attic, battling the encroaching darkness, the very air thick with anticipation. Jenna struggled to keep the words tumbling from her lips. You have to believe. It can't have power over you if you stand together. As the shadows shrieked, the space warped. The floor splintered beneath them, widening with each beat of the box's pulse. Threads of darkness seemed to reach for Jenna, tugging and pulling, filled with the weight of things unsaid, of truths buried deep. End this! He shouted suddenly, his hands shaking as he fended off the encroaching darkness. End this, or we will lose everything. The room trembled, shadows coiling back as if sensing the shift in his resolve. Behind the veil of fear, something flickered. A memory? A moment of clarity? Jenna didn't know. She had to act before they were consumed. Hold on! She yelled, wrenching the box higher, every muscle quaking with exertion. Its glow intensified, swallowing the shadows in its purity. All around them, whispers became roaring voices, fragmenting messages that clawed at her sanity. Face it. Flee it. Kill it. Was she losing herself? Was this madness? Look in the box. She cried again, urgency pouring from her. It's a reflection of us. What are we hiding? He stumbled as the shadows writhed around him, tearing at his clothes, gnashing and howling, desperate for a sacrifice. I can't let it out. Panic blazed in his eyes, but Jenna felt the heartbeat of the box resonating with her own. It was then that she realized this wasn't just the man's battle. It was hers too. The truth was the price of freedom, and together they held the key. With one last surge of will, she pressed forward. Shadows hissed as she forced the light into the cracks around them, illuminating the opaque tendrils reaching for the man's soul. Let go. What is buried will not kill us, but it might save us. The moment she uttered those words, the shadows froze, caught in a fit of rage and confusion. From the depth of the cacophony, Jenna caught a glimmering image at the edge of her vision, a fleeting glimpse of what lay inside the box, swirling chaos intertwined with memories, stitched with fear. But it wasn't just his horror. It was pieces of her own, unspeakable truths heavy with guilt, pain, and anger. The shadows turned, spiraling towards her with renewed greed, the screams clashing violently against her resolve. Do I have to face my darkness to save you? She wondered aloud, quivering. The air grew thicker. The shadows tightened their grip, and she felt a rush of icy tendrils curling around her limbs, pulling her toward the horrifying depths of her own making. A name trembled on the tip of her tongue, one she had long buried, locked away in her past. Jenna, the man called, breaking through her reverie. If we don't act now, we'll both be lost. A torrent of energy surged through her, flickers of light rising from her heart. Then let us face this together. An electrified silence fell as both of them stood on the precipice of reality and nightmare, the shadows waiting, eager to devour the light. But what truth would be unearthed? What hidden fears would emerge from the depths of that cursed box? Just then, a deafening crack echoed, as if the universe itself was tearing apart. The attic throbbed with unrelenting tension, shadows swirling like a tempest around them. Jenna stood firm, eyes locked on the man, the embodiment of fear and guilt, yet she felt an unacknowledged camaraderie blossoming between them. This was no longer just about release for the tortured souls, it was about their survival. The pulsating light from the box flickered, illuminating her determination. We have a choice, she declared, voice steady despite the chaos. Together, we can face our past and end this nightmare. The man's gaze flickered, a spark igniting within him, but terror still gripped his heart. What if we can't handle it? What if it kills us? Jenna took a step forward. These shadows and whispers were a reflection of both their fears. Then we die fighting, she said firmly. But we won't let this evil consume us. With a deep breath, she lifted the box high above her head, its light seizing the shadows in its brilliance. It's time to confront the truth. She could feel the weight of the souls pressing upon her, urging her to push further. With resolve burning inside her, she unveiled the box. The moment the lid opened fully, a blinding pulse of light erupted, washing over the attic. For a heartbeat, time stood still, the air crackling with energy as shadows recoiled from the radiance. Jenna could see glimpses of her own forgotten memories, every ache, every loss, and every fear that had lingered like specters at the edges of her thoughts. Look! She urged, holding the box steady. This is our chance. The man fell to his knees, face twisting into a mask of raw emotion. I can't. But something shifted within him, a flicker of courage breaking through the paralyzing fog. You're right. I want to be a prisoner of my own memories. As he moved closer, the tendrils of darkness recoiled, hissing and screeching as if they sensed a change. The man reached out a hand, trembling, and Jenna didn't hesitate. Together, they leaned forward, peering into the box. A shocking whirlwind of memories surged towards them, moments of joy intertwined with pain, laughter buried beneath regret. These aren't just shadows, Jenna breathed, heart racing. These are pieces of us. Then the air shifted with a cold wind, and amid the swirling light, the lamenting voices of the tortured souls grew louder, resonating with a fierce urgency. Face what lies buried. Unleash the truth. Fury ignited in their hearts. Jenna and the man surged forward together, their hands clasping the edge of the box as they faced the full power of their shared fears. "I see you," Jenna cried, glaring into the depths of the swirling chaos. With newfound strength, they inhaled deeply, ready to face the darkness. "Let us end this nightmare," they shouted together, voice tethered in unity. The light exploded, consuming the shadows that clawed desperately at them. A brilliant radiance shone through, illuminating the names and faces of the lost, broken souls fluttering in the dark. The man's eyes widened with recognition. With a flicker of understanding, he muttered, "It's us. We were all lost here." The shadows screamed, writhing in agony as light enveloped them, dragging them from the depths of despair. "Please," they shrieked, voices merging and rising in a crescendo. "Free us." Jenna's heart thundered. "We will. You will not be forgotten." She tossed the box open wider, a blast of energy erupting from within. It enveloped them, washing over the tortured spirits like a wave of pure cleansing light. But just as hope flickered, the darkness fought back with a viciousness that rattled Jenna to her core. The man faltered, shadows reaching to pull him back into despair. "You must trust," Jenna cried, refusing to let fear conquer them. "We hold the power." In an eruption of strength and vulnerability, they pushed back against the darkness together. As they did, the light expanded, pouring forth from the box like a life-giving river, illuminating the truth lingering in the shadows. Every fear, every regret, was laid bare. Then, in a final moment of clarity, Jenna locked eyes with the man. "This isn't just for us. It's for all of them." With that, they summoned their last reserves of strength, voices rising one last time to drown out the shadows. "You will not take us." The room quaked as the energy surged to a climax, a brilliant light colliding with the dark. Jenna's heart raced, suffocating hope fighting against despair. And then it happened. The darkness shattered, splintering into a million fragments, dissipating into the atmosphere like smoke blown away in a gust of wind. A profound silence fell. The once terrifying presence was gone. Jenna and the man stood in the attic, harrowed but alive. One by one, the freed souls flickered momentarily before disappearing, their cries transforming into echoes of gratitude that filled the space. Exhausted, Jenna turned to the man beside her, breaths mingling in the cool air. "We did it, we ended this." He nodded slowly, a sense of release washing over him. "You saved us," he whispered, voice thick with emotion. "And maybe saved yourself too." Outside, dawn broke across the horizon, a swell of warmth illuminating Maplewood Asylum, now nothing but an empty shell of shadows long forgotten. As they stepped away from the remnants of the darkness, an overwhelming sense of peace enveloped them. They both understood that the real journey had just begun, a journey towards healing, hope, and moving forward. Together, they faced whatever lay ahead, unshackled from the burdens of their past. Jenna squeezed the man's hand, and for the first time in a long time, she smiled, one born of freedom and newfound strength. And so, they ventured back into the world, leaving the past behind. That cursed asylum would exist only in memories, but they embraced a future filled with light, their bond forged in the fires of darkness. And now, dear viewers, you need to subscribe immediately to the channel so you don't miss the next exclusive stories. Smash that like button now to fuel the algorithm. Flood the comments with your thoughts and reactions about this wild conclusion. And don't wait even one more second, share this video with at least 5 friends who need to see this conclusion. Your support means the world, and only true fans know how critical you all are to this journey. Let us keep this community alive.